Hey everyone, good morning. Dennis Kay here with Belize Islands Real Estate. Hey, listen, I had this email come in from a client in Canada, and she had posed some really good questions. First of all, they already own property on North Ambergris Caye. They own an oceanfront property and several GBE lots, and they were wondering about the title strategy, how they should title these properties, or maybe move them around a little bit, maybe into a corporation or a trust, and sort of kicking around the options. And as far as should they build on some of these properties, Airbnb them, or should they just let them sit in their raw native state? And I thought, a lot of my clients are asking these same types of questions. So I want to take a little bit of time this morning. So this might be a 20, 25-minute video. If you want, grab yourself a pen, piece of paper, and maybe something to take notes with. Because some of this information I'm going to go into detail on. And boy, I am just tired this morning. Hang on a second, guys. I need to get some caffeine. Some of these questions I'm going to go into detail on because I think it's worth it to sort of paint the picture as far as how you might view some of your holdings, property investments in Belize. So, first of all, let's tackle the first question. What can you tell us about holding properties in a trust or a corporation? Okay, so if you don't currently own property in Belize, but you are looking at property, then when you find a property that you want to purchase, the first thing Alberto and his team will do, and I will probably know this ahead of time anyway, is determine how the property is currently held, how it is currently titled. Is it titled in the personal names of a local Belizean family? Is it titled in the personal names of a Canadian or an American couple? We're going to see how it's currently titled. It could be titled in its own IBC, or the Belize IBC, or an Anguillan IBC, or a Belize Chapter 250. So first of all, we want to look at that title and then ask the important question: is that property being sold with the potential to transfer whatever company currently holds title to that property to a new buyer? It's not always the case. So, for example, in one of my Belize Chapter 250 corporations, I might own 5 to 10 different properties, all held by that one corporation. So, if I sell one of the 10 properties, I'm obviously not including that company with the property sale because that property holds 9 other property, or that company holds 9 other properties for me. But in some of my holdings, I form a separate Belize Chapter 250, Belize IBC, Anguillan IBC. I form a separate corporation just to hold that one particular lot or property. Sometimes, if I go to sell that, then I do include in the sale that company. It offers many advantages to the new buyer, such as reduced stamp tax, ease of transfer, all that kind of good stuff. But let's go back to this scenario here. So you're looking around the island, you find a property that's for sale. Let's say it's a Grand Belizean Estates lot. You naturally ask the question, how is it titled? And I say, it's titled in an Anguillan IBC. And you have the opportunity to have that Anguillan IBC come along with the sale of the property. Would I recommend that you keep the Anguillan IBC? That answer to that involves a lot of follow-up questions: what you're planning to do with the property, if you're going to be building on it, all that kind of good stuff. I did a full video on the topic of how to structure your holdings in Belize, but let me just kind of break it down real simple, what I recommend as of today. So as of today, I'm seeing tremendous advantages for holding title in a Belize Chapter 250 corporation. This is just like an LLC type of corporation in the US. Belize Chapter 250 comes with a lot of benefits. It makes it a little easier for you to get residency if eventually you apply for residency, to get things like a driver's license, boat captain's license, bank account, things like that. Or in some cases, I recommend a Belize IBC, which is a Belizean International Business Company. Now, to go into more detail on each of these structures, how these companies work, the annual renewal fees, all that kind of good stuff, I recommend that once you have a property in mind that you put under contract, that you set up a Zoom call with Alberto and his team, They do a fantastic job there at Belize Caye Investments, having an office right there in San Pedro. They are the company that I would recommend handle your closing. And even if you already own a property, let's say you already own a property, it's already titled, but now you're having to make a decision as far as, should I spend a little money and have that property that I currently own in my personal name transferred into a Belize IBC or 250? Alberto and his team are a great source of information as to why and how you might be able to do that. So I recommend two things today: Belize Chapter 250 Corps, Belize IBCs to hold properties. But again, it depends on how the property is currently titled. So let's move on to question number 2. What is your opinion regarding Grand Belizean Estates? So this is a project that I've been involved in since its infancy. We started selling this project in 2009. Very, very close friends with the developer, and he did a fantastic job making lots that have become very affordable to local Belizeans and expats as well. Almost all the lots in the subdivision already have road access. And as we can see, it took a while for people to start building in this area, but man, it is really starting to take off now. So if you already own a property in Grand Belizean Estates, look at question number 3. Should you sit on it as a vacant lot and leave it to appreciate? Or question number 4, would you actually spend the money to go ahead and build it out and start operating it as an Airbnb or long-term rental? What is my opinion? All right, so I have a couple of schools of thought on that. First of all, if you are looking at retirement, and let's say retirement is a good 5 to 10 years away, then really what it comes down to is looking at your current liquidity, how much money you currently have to work with. If you have a nice Grand Belizean Estates lot, and it's just sitting there, it's costing you nothing to keep that lot in its raw native state. Other than your property taxes, it's just sitting there appreciating in value. However, if you see that there's going to be a time in the near future when you are going to be able to use that property yourself, let's say 2 to 3 months a year, or maybe you're going into a mini retirement, we're going to be able to spend maybe 6 months a year in Belize, 6 months a year back in North America, then I would sit and think, okay, what does it make sense for me to do as of today? Does it make sense for me to go ahead and put a nice home on the property, maybe with a separate rental casita? I can rent that long term, and then that property is there for me to use whenever me and my family and friends want to come down and use it. We can use it. When we're not there, we can Airbnb it, or we can long term rent it. So what I would do would depend on what my short and long term goals are. If your goal is for a lifestyle investment, in other words, you want a place where you can come down, enjoy the heck out of Ambergris Caye, go snorkeling and diving and fishing and drink margaritas on the beach and, go hang out at Secret Beach, the water park. If you want to do all those things and have your own home on the island, 100% I recommend go ahead, build on that lot. And then when you're not there, Airbnb it to recoup some of your annual cost, right? It'll help pay for your insurance, your flights down, maintenance of the property, all that kind of good stuff. If you are just building to have an Airbnb to generate income, if your sole goal is money, you don't care about using the property. In fact, you might not even want to come down to Belize. It's not your thing, but your sole goal is just to recoup some financial return, then I would have to sit with you and crunch the numbers, because what we want to do is we can say, okay, if we have this lot and we build an Airbnb on it, what are the typical nightly rates that you might get in an area like this? What is the occupancy rate that you might hope to achieve? What are your annual costs? And then say, okay, if I invest X number of dollars in this property, what is my net return on an annual basis going to look like? All right, given that there are many factors that go into Airbnb rentals, of course. Or you can look at a property and say, okay, if I build this home on my Ambergris Caye lot, on my in Grand Belizean Estates, Palmyra Woods, whatever it is, if I build this home, what could I get for it long term, knowing that there's going to be a tremendous need for long-term rentals on Ambergris Caye. There's a lot of people that want to live there. They don't have the money to build their own home or to buy a condo. They just want to simply rent something. So that's what we need to do. We need to sit down. What are the current build prices looking at today? Do we think those are going to go up or down in the future? What materials might you build out of? What could you build that is going to attract a long-term and short-term buyer? All right, so to answer this question, it really depends on what your short-term goals are 2 to 5 years from now, and what your 5 to 15 year goals are, and of course your liquidity. Where's the money going to come from for you to build out this Airbnb? That's also a good question to ask yourself when it comes to opportunity cost. So if you have a little bag of money, you can say to yourself, what could I do with this bag of money today over the next 3 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years? What could I do with this that gets me the highest and best use of this money when it comes to a financial return, but also when it comes to a lifestyle return? Now, comparing that to putting it in to building a home on one of your lots and long-term renting it, right? So kind of got to weigh those out. And I have a formula that I use when I look at doing this. What are the opportunity costs of action versus inaction? And what are the opportunity costs of choosing route A, B, or C when it comes to what I'm looking to maximize? Am I maximizing to look at making memories with friends, family, loved ones? Or am I simply looking to build this bag of money so that's a little bit bigger, so then I can go off and do other things 3, 5, 10, 15 years from now? Question number 5. When we are ready to build or perhaps sell something, where's the best place to open a bank account, how to open one, or even if we should have a bank account in Belize? All right, so here are my thoughts on that. First of all, I would say a good majority of my clients never open a bank account in Belize. All right, they just don't have a need to. If you're going to be opening a business in Belize, and a business I would term as anything that generates money in the country, for example, an Airbnb or a beach bar, something like that, having a bank account is pretty necessary. And I would recommend a couple different banks, just depending on, again, how you see yourself doing business on the island. Alberto and his team can assist with this, but there are banks in Belize like Atlantic, Belize Bank that do give out local accounts. Now, regarding bank accounts, guys, if you just go on any number of message boards and threads, Facebook groups, and ask the question about bank accounts in Belize, you're going to get answers all over the map. Some people have had a really difficult time getting them. Other people have had an easier time. And a lot of that really comes down to, does the bank feel that you need to have a bank account in the country of Belize? In other words, what are you bringing into the bank that shows them that you need a bank account? So you need your reference letters, you need your Belizean corporation, you need all these types of things. And if you show up showing that, I want to do business in this country, I'm going to benefit the locals living here, I want to contribute to the economy, then I've seen very, very few people have an issue getting their bank account. Now, when you have an issue getting a bank account, especially if you're an American, guys, if you are a citizen of the United States of America, then you need to know right up front that a lot of countries in the world will not work with you and will not give you an account. It's not prejudice. It's simply the fact that the United States of America requires so much reporting and paperwork from overseas banks, paperwork that they have to take time and money to deal with. And to be honest, a lot of banks just say, we don't want to deal with Americans. It's just not worth it to us, right? They don't bring enough to the table. That being said, you can and probably should get a bank account in Belize if you're planning on living there and doing business on the island. Number 6, do you know if we can borrow money from Canada to be able to build in Belize? So as far as I know, in my experience, there are no overseas banks that will give you a loan to specifically buy property and build in Belize, all right, because there's just too much risk involved. Now, let's say they give you a home loan regarding a property in Belize. You go down there and you lose the property. Well, how is a bank in Canada or the United States going to deal with that repo, right? They're just not. So what you can do what many of my clients have done is taken out home equity loans. If your bank allows that, if you have enough equity in your home, you can take out home equity loan, then that is your money to do with as you please. You can do whatever you want with that money. So yeah, you can get a home equity loan. And otherwise, yeah, as far as I'm aware of, there are no banks in North America that specifically loan on property purchases or developments in Belize. So yeah, I just wanted to go through these 6 questions. I think we had one more about crypto. I'm not up on crypto, guys. I'm not the right guy to talk to about that. Is it being utilized in Belize? I would highly doubt it. It just right now with that whole scene, there's a lot of course, issues and skepticism and volatility. So right now we're dealing with American dollars. American dollars in Belize, sometimes converted to Belizean dollars, depending on how the property is being transacted. But yeah, so when you go on websites, almost all the websites in Belize post their values or their listings in US dollars, and all your money is transferred through escrow accounts. So for example, if you use Belize Caye Investments, they have a US dollar escrow account in the United States. I believe it's in New Mexico. If you're using another closing party, for such as a lawyer in Belize City, they have their own escrow accounts. So all the money is wired from wherever you're living in the world into those escrow accounts. And then at closing, the buyer's paid off, the agent's paid off, some of the money goes to your closing costs, your stamp tax, all that kind of good stuff. All right. So listen, if you guys have any other questions that you want to see me answer in this format, let me know. I'll be happy to put together a little video for you guys, post it to my channel. Otherwise, you guys have a great weekend. Steph and I are here in the City of Lights. We're in Paris for a long weekend, catching up with some friends we haven't seen in a while. So I'm about to go out to lunch, meet one of my dear friends, have some wine. Tonight we're meeting a big group of friends that we haven't seen, and some of them for over a year, at a fantastic Vietnamese restaurant. So looking forward to that. But you guys take care. Keep your emails coming. And Steph and I have booked our next trip back to Belize. We'll be doing a separate video on that soon regarding some exciting things we have planned for our clients who will be able, hopefully, will be able to join us on that trip. And stay tuned. More information on that coming real soon. All right. Take care, guys. Have a great Saturday, great weekend. We'll talk to you soon.